You ever wonder what would happen if you took someone whose entire personality revolves around sitting in a chair, a very expensive chair, mind you, with lumbar support and LED lighting, and dropped them into a place specifically designed to destroy every single comfort a human being could ever want? Not a prison. Prisons at least have a schedule you can complain about. No! I'm talking about something worse. I'm talking about a 13th century Benedictine monastery. A place where silence wasn't just encouraged, it was enforced. Where food was a punishment disguised as a meal. Where the concept of you time didn't exist because you didn't belong to you anymore. You belonged to God, the abbot, the bell, and 73 chapters of rules written by a guy who had been dead for 700 years and still controlled every breath you took. And the lucky contestant today, Colton Briggs, 19 years old, Austin, Texas, a sophomore at UT who hasn't technically attended a class since October because he streams on Twitch 6 nights a week and genuinely believes this is a career path. Colton's setup is worth more than most people's cars. Dual monitors, mechanical keyboard with cherry switches that sound like a hailstorm on a tin roof. A gaming chair that reclines further than his ambition. And the headset, a wireless RGB headset that cycles through 16 million colors because apparently hearing your teammates call you trash needs to be a visual experience too. His room looks like the inside of a spaceship designed by someone who has never seen the sun. LED strips on every surface. A mini fridge within arm's reach, stocked exclusively with energy drinks and string cheese. A ring light he swears is for the stream, but mostly uses to examine his jawline between matches. There are 3 empty cans of Monster on his desk right now. There have been 3 empty cans of Monster on his desk every day for 2 years. The ecosystem is stable. Colton's daily schedule goes something like this. Wake up around noon, check his phone for 40 minutes without sitting up. Eat something beige. Stream from 4 to midnight. Order DoorDash. Fall asleep watching someone else play the exact same game he just played for 8 hours. Repeat. He communicates primarily through Discord, secondarily through grunts, and has not voluntarily spent time outside since the weather was nice enough to complain about. His mom texts him every 3 days. He responds to roughly a third of them. He calls this boundaries. Now I call it something else, but this isn't about me. The point is, Colton exists in a world of total stimulation, sound, light, input, feedback, dopamine, a constant drip. Every second is filled with something. Noise, content, reaction. His brain hasn't experienced genuine silence since before he was born, and even then, his mother was probably playing a podcast. Silence to Colton is a loading screen, something broken, something that needs fixing. Remember that? It's going to matter. So here's what happened. It's a Tuesday night. Colton just rage quit a ranked match, threw his headset, called his teammate a word I won't repeat, and opened TikTok to cool down. Which is like putting out a fire with lighter fluid, but whatever. He's scrolling, brain off, thumb on autopilot, and then he hits one of those filter videos. Which historical era are you? You've seen them. They're stupid. They scan your face, play some dramatic music, and tell you you're a Viking or a Roman gladiator or whatever makes you feel briefly interesting. Colton taps it because he has nothing better to do, and because his attention span has the structural integrity of wet paper. The filter scans his face, the screen flashes, and instead of getting medieval knight or Egyptian pharaoh or some other flattering nonsense, the screen goes white, not buffering white, not loading white. White like the absence of everything. His phone gets cold in his hand, not warm like when it overheats during a stream. Cold. And then the light swallows him. No sound, no transition, no dramatic whoosh, just gone. Chair empty, LED strips still cycling through their 16 million colors for absolutely nobody. Colton hits stone floor, that's the first thing. Not carpet, not hardwood, not the rubber mat under his gaming chair, stone. Cold, uneven, damp stone that hits his knees and palms in a way that sends a jolt up through his whole skeleton. He's on all fours in the dark, and I don't mean nighttime dark. I don't mean power outage dark. I mean dark like light hasn't been invented yet. Dark like the concept of seeing is a rumor. The air is freezing. Not Austin in January freezing, because Austin in January is 50 degrees and Colton still complained about it. This is English countryside in November freezing. The kind of cold that doesn't just touch your skin. It moves in underneath it and sets up camp between your bones. He's wearing basketball shorts and a faded Valorant t-shirt. No shoes, because why would he be wearing shoes? He was sitting in a chair in his bedroom 30 seconds ago. His phone is gone. His headset is gone. The only RGB in this room is the faint bluish gray of moonlight coming through a narrow window that's barely wider than his hand. And then the bell hits. If you've never heard a medieval monastery bell at close range, congratulations on having functioning eardrums. This isn't a chime. This isn't a notification tone. This is a bronze fist punch in the inside of your skull. It reverberates through the stone walls, through the floor, through Colton's bare feet, through his feelings. It rings once, twice, keeps going, and it means something very specific. It means it is approximately 2 in the morning, and everyone in this building is about to get up and pray. Welcome to Matins, the first of 8 daily prayer offices in the Benedictine schedule, collectively known as the Opus Dei, the work of God. Monks in the 13th century prayed roughly 4 hours a day, spread across these 8 offices, starting in the dead of night and ending after sunset. The first bell of the day rang around 2 a.m. Let me emphasize, 2 in the morning. Not as a punishment, as a privilege, every day for the rest of your life. Colton doesn't know any of this. Colton is crouched on a stone floor in the dark, barefoot in basketball shorts. And his first coherent thought, his very first contribution to the 13th century is, bro, who set an alarm? Then the shapes start moving. All around him, dark figures rise from low wooden beds. They don't speak. They don't groan. They don't stretch or check the time or scroll through anything. They just stand, pull their hoods up, and begin filing out in a single line, sandals shuffling against stone. One of them passes close enough that Colton can smell him. Wool, sweat, something sour and ancient that he cannot identify and does not want to. The figure doesn't look at him. None of them look at him. They move like NPCs on a fixed path. Except these NPCs have been doing this every single night for decades, and they will not stop for a confused teenager in athletic shorts. Colton follows because he doesn't know what else to do. The hallway is a stone corridor barely lit by a single candle mounted on the wall, and the cold here is somehow worse than the room. His feet are numb within seconds. The line of monks moves through a doorway and into a church, and I need to describe this church because it matters. It's not a cute village chapel, it's a full monastic church. Tall, vaulted, echoing, and so cold that Colton can see his own breath in the candlelight. The monks file into wooden stalls on either side of the nave, stand and begin to chant. No warm-up, no introduction. Just sound. Low, resonant Latin words rolling through the dark like fog. Colton stands at the back. He doesn't sit because nobody sat. Standing was the default. The rule of St. Benedict, written in the 6th century and still governing every breath in this building, had opinions about everything. When to eat, when to sleep, when to speak, when to stand. And the answer to most of those was, less than you want to, and never on your terms. Colton's legs start shaking after 20 minutes. The chanting goes on for over an hour. He shifts his weight. A monk near him turns just slightly. Not a look, more like a radar blip, and Colton freezes. He gets the message. Don't move. Don't make a sound. This is not a suggestion. After matins comes a brief return to the dormitory. Colton thinks this means sleep. It does technically, for about 3 hours. Then the bell goes off again. Lauds another office. More chanting, more standing, more cold. By the time a grayish light starts creeping through the narrow windows, Colton has already been awake for 5 hours and prayed twice, and he hasn't eaten, spoken, or understood a single word that anyone has said. And then comes the silence, the real silence, the thing that's going to break him faster than the cold, faster than the hunger, faster than the flogging he doesn't know is coming yet, the great silence. In a Benedictine monastery, silence wasn't a suggestion or a vibe or a meditation app you opened for 10 minutes. It was the operating system. Monks were forbidden from unnecessary speech during most of the day. During the great silence, from compline in the evening to after prime the next morning, talking was a punishable offense, not a please keep it down offense. You will confess this in front of everyone, and the abbot will decide what happens to your back offense. And even outside the great silence, speech was minimal, functional, stripped to bone. If you needed to communicate, many monasteries developed their own sign language. At Cluny, one of the most powerful monasteries in Europe, monks had documented signs for bread, water, fish, and dozens of other daily needs. They built an entire nonverbal vocabulary because opening your mouth was that serious. Colton, a person who has literally screamed at strangers on the internet for putting the bomb in the wrong spot, is now living inside silence like a fish lives inside water. It's everywhere. It presses against him. He opens his mouth twice during his first morning, and both times a nearby monk shakes his head with a look that could curdle milk. The second time, an older monk grabs his wrist hard and puts a finger to his own lips with the kind of intensity that suggests this isn't a first warning, it's a last one. Breakfast doesn't exist. The first meal of the day happens around midday after the office of sext, and in winter months, it's the only meal. One meal, one. The rule of St. Benedict permitted 2 meals a day in summer and 1 in winter, and meat from 4-legged animals was forbidden entirely except for the sick. What Colton gets, when he finally gets it, is a bowl of something. I'm going to call it stew because it's warm and it's in a bowl, but it's mostly water with some root vegetables that have been boiled into a kind of theological surrender. A chunk of coarse bread that's dense enough to be used as a weapon. And a cup of weak beer because water wasn't always safe and monks needed something to wash down their sadness. They eat in the refectory, long wooden tables, benches, and absolute silence except for one monk standing at a lectern reading aloud from Scripture. That's the entertainment. That's the dinner conversation. One guy reads, everyone else chews in silence and contemplates their sins. Colton stares at his bread like it personally offended him. He takes a bite. It doesn't crumble. It resists. His jaw works. His eyes water. He looks around for literally anything else. A condiment, a second option, a complaint box. There is nothing. There is bread, there is stew, and there is God listening to you chew. After the meal, Colton enters what the rule calls manual labor. This is where the day splits into 2 tracks. Some monks go to the scriptorium to copy manuscripts, and some go outside to work the fields, tend the gardens, maintain the buildings. Colton gets the fields. Of course, he gets the fields. His hands, which have spent the last 3 years doing nothing more strenuous than clicking a mouse at 600 actions per minute, are now being asked to pull root vegetables out of frozen English soil. Within an hour, he has blisters. Within 2 hours, the blisters have opened. A monk next to him, a wiry guy who looks about 60 and moves with the efficiency of someone who stopped caring about discomfort before Colton was born, glances at his hands and then looks away. Not with sympathy, With something closer to observation, like watching a bug figure out a window, the cold doesn't stop. It's worth mentioning again because it really doesn't stop. Colton is now wearing a monastic habit, a rough wool tunic over a rougher wool undergarment, cinched with a belt, topped with a scapular and a hood. This is not comfortable clothing. This is clothing that was designed by someone who believed comfort was a distraction from God. The wool is unprocessed, coarse, and it itches in a way that makes Colton want to tear his own skin off. He gets one habit. One. There is no changing, no laundering schedule that involves fabric softener, no second option. You wear it, you sleep in it, you pray in it, you sweat in it, it becomes you. And here's the part that gets Colton. It's not even his. Nothing is his. The rule of St. Benedict, chapter 33, is explicit. Monks shall not possess anything as their own. Not a book, not a pen, not a blanket. Everything belongs to the community. The bed Colton sleeps on is not his bed. The bowl he eats from is not his bowl. The sandals on his feet, which are already giving him blisters on top of blisters, belong to the monastery. He owns nothing. He is nothing. He is a vessel, and the vessel's job is to shut up and dig. I wish I felt bad about this, but I don't. Day 2 introduces Colton to the chapter of faults, and this is where things get genuinely medieval. Once a week, sometimes more, the monks gather in the chapter house for a meeting that functions like a cross between a group therapy session and a public execution. Each monk is expected to confess his own faults. Broke silence, confess. Dozed off during vigils, confess. Ate too quickly, believe it or not, confess. But it doesn't stop there. Monks were also expected to accuse each other. If you saw Brother Thomas yonder in Lauds, you reported it, not out of malice, out of duty. The abbot would then assign penance, which ranged from extra prayers to prostrating yourself on the floor, while everyone walked over you to actual physical discipline. The flagellum, a whip of knotted cords, was a standard corrective tool. You got hit on the back. You said thank you. This was considered a kindness because pain brought you closer to God. Colton watches his first chapter of faults with the wide, unblinking eyes of someone watching a car accident happen in slow motion. A monk, young, maybe mid-20s, stands, confesses that he fell asleep during the reading at dinner, and then kneels. The abbot nods. Another monk steps forward with a short whip. 3 strikes across the back. The young monk doesn't flinch, doesn't make a sound, stands, bows, returns to his seat, business as usual. Tuesday morning. Colton's mouth is open so wide a medieval fly could build a cathedral in it, and then someone points at Colton, not aggressively, almost casually, and says something in Latin. He doesn't understand the words, but the room turns to look at him. Every hooded head. Every pair of eyes that has been staring at the floor for the last 40 minutes. The abbot speaks. The monk next to Colton pushes him gently, but firmly, to stand. He stands. The abbot speaks again. Colton has no idea what's happening. What's happening is this. He spoke during the great silence, twice, yesterday. Someone noticed. Someone always notices. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, and unconfessed fault is twice the sin. He doesn't get the whip, not yet. He gets prostration, lying face down on the stone floor of the chapter house while the meeting continues around him. The stone is cold against his chest, his forehead, his bare forearms. He lies there for what feels like an hour. It's probably 15 minutes. Someone steps over him to get to the door. Nobody acknowledges him. He is the floor now. He is furniture with a heartbeat. This kid's about to get monasticized, and honestly, he was overdue. The days begin to blur after that, but not in the comfortable way days blur when you're binge watching a series. They blur because every single one is identical. The rule of St. Benedict was, in the most literal sense, a machine for reorganizing your entire existence. Wake at 2, pray. Sleep briefly, pray. Work, pray. Eat in silence. Work, pray. Eat if it's summer. Pray, sleep, repeat. The bell dictated everything. When it rang, you stopped whatever you were doing and you went. No finishing your task. No one more minute. No negotiation. The bell won every argument. It won before the argument started. Colton, who has spent his entire life deciding when to eat, when to sleep, when to speak, and what to pay attention to at any given moment, now decides nothing. Zero. His autonomy has been repossessed and donated to a bronze instrument mounted in a tower, and the silence keeps pressing. That's the thing that movies never show you about monastic life. The silence isn't peaceful. It's not the yoga retreat, sound bath, let me center myself silence. It's oppressive. It's alive. It fills every room and every hallway and every gap between the chanting. Colton starts hearing things, not hallucinations, just the sounds his brain manufactures to fill the void. Ringing in his ears, his own heartbeat, the scratch of a quill in the scriptorium 3 rooms away. A mouse in the wall. He starts craving noise the way you crave water, desperately, involuntarily, with his whole body. He catches himself tapping his fingers against his thigh in a rhythm. A monk sees this. The monk shakes his head.
I understand.
Even the tapping is too much. Even the ghost of noise is a violation. By day 5, something starts to crack, not break, crack. There's a difference. Colton stops reaching for his pocket every 10 minutes. His hand still twitches, but it doesn't complete the motion. He stops expecting food to taste like anything. He stops expecting warmth. He starts anticipating the bell, not with dread, but with the flat, resigned obedience of someone whose resistance has been sanded down to nothing. He kneels when others kneel. He bows his head when others bow. He eats his bread and his watered-down stew, and he doesn't look around for alternatives, because there are none and there never were, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner the bread starts to taste like just bread and not like a personal insult. He still can't sing the Latin chants, but he stands in the choir stalls and mouths along, and the sound washes over him, and for a few minutes during Vespers on the 5th evening, with the last gray light filtering through the narrow windows and the voices echoing off stone that has heard 10,000 identical evenings before this one, something happens that Colton will never be able to explain to anyone. The silence between the notes becomes the thing he's listening to, not the music, the gaps, the spaces where sound was and then isn't. And inside those gaps, for the first time in his life, his brain is not generating content. It's not producing opinions or reactions or commentary or the low hum of wanting something. It's just there, existing, in a stone building, in November, in the 13th century. And it doesn't hurt. It lasts about 9 seconds. Then his stomach growls loud enough to echo off the vaulted ceiling, and the monk next to him closes his eyes with the patient suffering of a man who has chosen God, and God keeps testing him. Welcome to the monastery. You don't get highlights. You get 9 seconds of transcendence, and then your body reminds you it's starving. On the 7th morning, the bell rings at 2 a.m. and Colton is already standing before his eyes are open. His feet hit the cold floor and he doesn't flinch. His habit doesn't itch anymore, or maybe it does and he's stopped registering it. He files into the church with the others. He stands in his place. He mouths the Latin. The abbot passes him during the procession and, for the first time, doesn't look at him with that evaluating stare. He looks through him, the same way he looks through every other monk. Because Colton, for one brief moment, is indistinguishable from the rest. And then the light comes, same white, same cold, same nothing. He hits his bedroom floor, carpet, warm, LED strips still cycling through their 16 million colors, and he gasps like a man surfacing from deep water. His phone is on the floor next to him, screen still on TikTok. The filter result blinks, medieval monk, with a little animated halo. The stream of comments below it from people who got the same result and posted laughing emojis. His headset is on the desk. His monster cans are right where he left them. His chair is still warm. Colton sits on the floor for 45 minutes without moving. His roommate Derek comes in around 1 a.m. because it was still the same Tuesday night. Time is a flat circle. None of this makes sense, and finds Colton sitting in the dark, not gaming, not scrolling, just sitting on the floor in the dark. Derek asks if he's okay. Colton opens his mouth to answer and stops, holds up one finger. Wait, then very quietly, "Yeah, I'm good." Derek stares at him for a long time and then goes to bed because Derek has learned not to ask follow-up questions. Over the next few weeks, things get weird. Not dramatic weird, quiet weird. Colton still streams, but he turns the volume down. He buys a pair of sandals that make no sense in Austin. He eats slower, not mindfully, not in some performative wellness way. He just chews more and stares at the wall while he does it. He starts waking up early. Not 2 a.m. early, but early enough that Derek, who has never once seen Colton conscious before noon, brings it up as a genuine concern at a house meeting. But the real thing, the thing that sticks, is the flinching. Every time a bell rings, any bell, a notification, a microwave, a church bell 3 blocks away on Sunday morning, a bicycle bell on campus, Colton's whole body tenses, shoulders up, eyes down, hands flat against his sides. It lasts half a second. He can't control it. He doesn't talk about it, but it happens every single time. And it will keep happening for years. And he will never fully explain to anyone why the sound of a bell makes him stand up straight and stop talking. He quits using his mechanical keyboard, buys a silent one, takes the LEDs off his desk. Not all of them. He's not a psychopath, but most of them. His room goes from spaceship cockpit to something that almost resembles a place where a human lives instead of a content machine. Derek asks about it. Colton shrugs. The lights were kind of mid, he says, which is not an explanation, but it's all Derek is going to get. One night, 3 months later, Colton is at a party. Someone puts on music so loud the bass makes the cups vibrate on the counter. Everyone is shouting over each other. Normal college party. And Colton, standing in the middle of it with a red cup he hasn't sipped from, suddenly can't breathe. The noise is a wall, a physical wall pressing against his chest. He walks outside, sits on the porch steps, and stays there for the rest of the night, alone, in the quiet, watching his breath fog in the cold Texas air. And for 9 seconds, exactly 9, he counts them every time now, his brain goes still, completely still. No input, no output, no content, just the gaps between things. He never tells anyone where he was. Who would believe him? And what would he even say? That he spent a week in a 13th century English monastery. That a man in a brown robe whipped another man in a brown robe and everyone was fine with it? That he lay face down on a stone floor as punishment for whispering? That he ate 1 meal a day and it was mostly water pretending to be food? That the worst part wasn't the cold or the hunger or the hidden, it was the silence, and the worst part about the silence was that it worked? Nah, he just stopped using the RGB headset, got a plain black one instead. And if you ever meet a 19-year-old gamer from Austin who flinches at bells, eats like he's being watched, and occasionally whispers, "No cap," so quietly that only God could hear it, now you know. You know exactly where he's been. And between you and me, the monastery didn't just humble him. It reformatted his entire hard drive. Factory reset, no backup. And the funny part is, some nights, when his apartment is finally quiet and the screens are off and Austin is asleep, he almost misses it. Almost. He'd never admit that, but I see it. That 9-second pause, the way he stares at nothing. He's back in the choir stalls, mouthing Latin he doesn't understand. Listening to the spaces between the notes, the bell still wins every argument, even from 800 years away.